everybody. Here's another video for you today. And well, I want to say thank you for sticking with these things. If you guys are sticking with these things, watching them, because I enjoy doing them, and just sharing my love of lit with you guys. I want to put out here today that this book has some disturbing content in it. Specifically, it deals with murder of children, and some pretty heinous murders of children. So if that's a topic that grosses you out or makes you uncomfortable or triggers any trauma or anything like that, I suggest you skip this episode. I mean, I'm not going to go into graphic detail about the bodies or anything like that, but it does deal with a child killer. So moving on, if you're still hanging around, the book I want to talk about is called Mistress of the Art of Death, and it's a novel by Ariana Franklin, who was the pseudonym for a British author who passed away in 2011 called Diana Norman. And she wrote 5 in this series with the same protagonist, a lady called Adelia. And this takes place in England under the reign of Henry II. So I think we're looking at the 1140s or something like that, around there. I think my dad, if he's watching this, will probably correct me. So what's really amazing about this novel, even though it deals with a pretty horrendous topic, is it's so well written. All of her books are amazingly written. She's a great author. The dialogue, the plot, the pacing, and the detail, because it is historical fiction. You can tell she really did her research, which is great. So, even though it's some places sort of a hard book to read, and a couple of times I had to put it down and just be like, whew, wow. Even though I've probably read it maybe 4 or 5 times. I've had it for a while. It can be a heavy read, but it just sucks you in. It's so good. The mystery is so good. It's medieval, I guess maybe even dark ages, possibly true crime. And there's a reason true crime is so popular, because it just appeals to that part of us that's just oh my God, how could someone do this? What kind of a person could do something like this? And you're just so fascinated by it because it's probably so far out of your own personal experience or conscience, or just one of the reasons I love sort of psychology and forensic psychology and criminal psychology and things like that is just you want to get into the mind of the person. You want to know why did they do this. So anyways, premise of the book, it's really awesome because it combines historical fiction, which is always sort of fascinating, but also early medicine and early medical science methodology, things like that. And this is even way before people realized that blood circulated through the body, which is fantastic. It's got politics. It's got a really sort of interesting mishmash of explanation of religious beliefs and things like that, because the premise of the book is that the main character, who is named Adelia, is a doctor in Salerno, which is Spain. She was rescued and adopted by Jewish parents who were teachers at this medical university in Spain. And apparently at this point, it was okay for women to be studying there, to be educated as doctors, not just midwives or herbalists or whatever. So what's going on in England is that the Jews in the town of Cambridge, and apparently there's quite a large Jewish population, have been accused of heinously murdering these children. And it's all sort of based on misunderstanding of Jewish rights and religion and beliefs and things like that, because as people do, they accuse what they don't understand. the Jews have always been the scapegoat, and this book is no exception. So Henry's like, well, with these Jews all sort of locked up in my castle, like they're not making me any money through their taxes and usury, which is the loaning of money. And so this is no longer like profitable to me, and I'm losing a lot of money, and so I need help finding out who did this, so my Jews can get back to business. It's essentially a very selfish reason on his part. It's like, I need that money. So he sends to his bud, the King of Spain, and he's like, yo, send me someone who knows the art of death to check these kids out and find out, what's going on, like who's killing them. So it's sort of like early, like psychological criminal profiling as well too, through forensics, examine the bodies, kind of try and get into the mind of the killer and figure out, who and why and all this sort of stuff. So the people at the college end up sending a female doctor instead of a male doctor. And while this might be okay in Spain, it does not fly in the UK. So Adelia, ends up having to play sort of apprentice to her bodyguard, who is an Arab eunuch named Mansour, and pretend that he's the doctor this whole time, while she's the one who actually ends up, helping people. And they set up shop in Cambridgeshire and go about their detecting business, trying to keep it on the down low. But sort of at the same time having to deal with, the hatred of Jews and, possible mob violence and a hidden killer who, could strike again at any time kind of thing. And there's a whole lot going on in this novel. There's like sort of, a lot of subplots about a priory and a nunnery who are, going head to head over this little kid's bones. One of the first murder victims has been claimed as a saint, and this whole sort of thing. So there's that going on. There's, the whole thing going on with the Jews in the background and what's happening to them. And, then there's like Adelia trying to keep her identity as a doctor a secret. So it's really hard for her to, get around and do her thing while not revealing her, because she'd be accused as being a witch, basically, at this point. So long story short, there are like in the book quite thorough examinations that she does of like the children's corpses, and just like the level of what's been done to them is just so maniacal and so heinous that she knows like it couldn't have been any of the Jewish people. It's the work of like one psycho, essentially. So I'm not going to give away, who done it at the end of the book, but it's like the scene at the end is just something that like you're not going to expect. It's like there's some Buffalo Bill level shit happening here, more than Buffalo Bill shit maybe happening here. So if you decide to give this a read, prepare yourself for that. But just it combines so many elements that are so interesting to me, like it's that historical fiction, just like the science of the time, the medical knowledge of the time, what they knew, what they didn't know, and just sort of comparing, like it's almost like comparing like the Dark Ages to like the Enlightenment, and how people like Adelia and the college in Spain and things like that are trying to discover how people work, essentially, and find cures for ailments and diseases, and not bow to superstition and things like that. Like they know that there must be like some sort of reason, some sort of physical cause for illnesses and stuff like that. And the characterization of the people in the dialogue is so good. There's actually a lot of humor in here too, which I think is really good, because man, that you need that after some of those heavy reading sections. Like there'll be times when I'll put this book down, I'll just be like, whew, I gotta take a minute. go make a coffee or something, just kind of process like what you just read. So I'm really glad that she actually ended up writing like 4 more books in this series. And I think I'm gonna have to double check, but I know I've got the next 3, all focusing on Adelia, because at the end of the novel, when she thinks like, okay, like this is all solved, like my identity is, kind of out in the open and everything like that, she's like, I'm getting the hell out of here, going back home to Spain, where I can be normal and live my normal life and whatever. And the king of King of England, Henry, he's like, yeah, I don't think so. He's like, nah, you're too like handy. I'm gonna keep you around. Like you're stuck here, girl. And so it sort of like takes off from there. The rest of the novels of, whenever the king's got some kind of murder mystery problem, who you gonna call? So yeah. Also, one thing I love, I am 100% a sucker for books that have like maps in them. And here you go. So it's a map of Cambridgeshire, as it was like at that time, showing all sort of like the pertinent areas and things like that, because she sort of has to tramp all over the place, to find like different things, stuff like that. Like one of the things that she discovers is that like there's chalk, embedded into like some of the children's hair and things like that, like leading her to the conclusion that they must have been killed somewhere in like chalky ground. So like you got to go around finding out places like, okay, well, where is there chalk around here? So, there's sort of a lot of traveling around as well too. So it's always kind of helpful to sort of have a map or things like that, especially in places that exist today, but they're definitely not the same as they existed like the other times. Oh, my bad. It's actually 1171. Hey, I was close. I said 1140. This is off by 30 years. That's not too bad. So yeah, definitely check this out if you've got a fairly strong constitution and you can deal with something like heinous child murders. But at least they get solved. So that's pretty good. Anyway, Mistress of the Art of Death by Ariana Franklin. Definitely a heavy read, but an amazing read. And I think the next one in the series is called A Serpent's Tale. So yeah, I'm very sad that this lady passed away in like 2011, because there was a point where I was trying to find more of these books, and I'm like, ah, shit, she's dead. Damn it, there's not going to be any more of these books. Yeah, well, probably some of the best murder mysteries that I've read. So yeah, check it out, and I'll see you next time. Any comments, any questions, anything like that, throw them down there in the comments. Anything more you want to see, you like the murder mystery thing, you like the historical fiction thing. I got a bunch of stuff, so let me know. Bye.